Good evening and welcome to tonight's neighborhood meeting. My name is Shelby White and I'm a planner with the city's Development Services Department. The focus of tonight's meeting will be on the potential development application for a zoning bylaw amendment at 150 Toronto Street and 54 Ross Street in Ward 2. Please be aware that we are recording this meeting for the public record. All information provided is being collected and will be used for the purpose of garnering your input, to respond to inquiries, and to be notified of future meetings and will be considered public information. Should you have questions regarding this collection, please contact the Development Services Department. I would like to let everyone know that there are staff behind the scenes managing the technology tonight. Sorry about that, that are managing the technology tonight. They have the ability to interrupt our meeting at any time and will endeavor to allow the applicants and each member of the public the opportunity to speak. Please bear with us if we have any technical issues. I can confirm that with us tonight, we have 8 participants on the call, including our Ward 2 Councillor, Keenan Aylwin. Thank you for joining us tonight, Councillor. Tonight's meeting is not a statutory requirement under the Planning Act. As the application is in the early stages of the review process, the intent of tonight's meeting is more so to provide members of the public with an opportunity to become familiar with the development application and the planning review process, and also ask the applicant questions and provide some feedback. Tonight, during this virtual neighborhood meeting, you can expect a presentation from the applicant's representative describing the proposal, a brief overview of the city's review process and timing, and an opportunity to ask questions of either the applicant or city staff and provide comments or identify any concerns with the application. You should not expect city staff to have any recommendations on the application this evening or a detailed analysis on the proposal. This will occur later in the review process once we receive a formal application. City staff and the applicant will also not debate the merits of the proposal at this time. Once we move on to the question and answer period, if you wish to ask a question or provide a comment, you will be required to use the meeting controls to raise your virtual hand. You can find these at the bottom of your screen, along with the other meeting controls. For those who are joining us by phone, dial in. You may press 9 to raise your virtual hand. And when you are called on to speak, you can press 6 to unmute yourself. I will repeat these instructions at the Q&A point. I will call you by name to speak, and then you will need to unmute yourself, and then please clearly state your name and address before providing your comments or questions. As we work through the questions and comments later in the meeting, I respectfully request that members of the public please avoid repeating the same questions and comments over again. Once a specific matter has been identified, it will be documented, and the applicant will either provide a response verbally this evening or provide a response later through the formal application process during the public meeting or in written format through their formal submission. This will allow us to have a more productive meeting and conclude the meeting as scheduled by 6:30 p.m. Those that have registered for the meeting by providing a mailing or email address will be added to the mailing list to receive further notice about the proposal, including submission of an application. Before we get into the presentations, I just want to quickly highlight the next steps in the application process. We are currently in the initial stages of the process. The proposal has completed pre-consultation technical review with a variety of city staff and external agencies, with the expectation that an application is forthcoming. After tonight's meeting, the applicant will need to incorporate comments received from this neighborhood meeting and make a presentation through the public meeting process before the planning committee. The formal application submission will be reviewed with comments received from the city's technical departments and external agencies, as well as consideration of the public's input. This neighborhood meeting is established early in the development process to ensure local concerns are incorporated or addressed through the city's review. Following tonight's meeting and review of the formal applications, there will be a public meeting with council scheduled in the future. The public meeting is a statutory requirement under the Planning Act. Everyone who registered for tonight's meeting, as well as all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands, will be notified of the public meeting. The public meeting will also be held virtually, similar to tonight's meeting. At the public meeting, the applicant's representative will present the applications to council and again answer questions. At the public meeting, the applicant will be required to identify that a neighborhood meeting was held and provide an overview and response to any issues and concerns that are identified at tonight's meeting. Members of the public will again have an opportunity to provide either verbal or written comments at that public meeting. Following the public meeting, staff will continue the technical review process associated with the applications, and the applicants may make any necessary revisions to the development proposal. Once the review process has concluded, a staff recommendation report will be brought forward to council for their consideration. All comments received throughout the review process, including those received at this neighborhood meeting and the forthcoming public meetings, will be identified and addressed in the staff report and will form part of staff's recommendation on the application. Now that I've provided an overview of the planning application process and what you can expect at tonight's meeting, we will move on to the applicant's presentation. As I mentioned, following this, there will be a question and comment period. Tonight, we have Kyle Galvin from Innovative Planning Solutions here with us, and he will be presenting the development proposal on behalf of the property owners. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment application would seek to rezone the lands from residential multiple dwelling second density, or RM2, and institutional, I, to institutional with special provisions. This would extend the existing zoning for Victoria Village over the subject lands and provide consistent zoning across all land in their ownership. A development concept has not been completed at this time. At this point, I'm going to hand the meeting control over to Kyle, who will share his presentation on the proposed development. Take it away, Kyle.
Thanks, Shelby. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, hopefully everybody can see this. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kyle Galvin. I am a planner here with Innovative Planning Solutions, and I am here on behalf of the applicant regarding an application for zoning bylaw amendment for the lands located at 150 Toronto Street and 54 Ross Street. The subject lands are highlighted in red in this image. The first is located at the corner of Ross Street and Toronto Street and is municipally known as 54 Ross Street. The second is located just north at 150 Toronto Street. Combined, they have a total approximate size of 0.56 hectares or 5,620 square meters. The lands possess 2 road frontages, including 71.8 meters of frontage on Ross Street and a combined 123.4 meters of frontage onto Toronto Street. Both of these streets are municipal. Currently, the site is vacant with limited tree coverage. The topography of the site slopes from north to south towards the waterfront. This image shows the subject sites from the above outlined in red. The solid red lines are the 2 parcels which are the subject of the zoning bylaw amendment, and the dashed line is the existing Victoria Village. We're looking northwest from the corner of Toronto Street and Ross Street. These 2 images show the individual pieces. On the left is a view of 54 Ross Street looking south, and on the right is a view of 150 Toronto Street looking west. This slide illustrates the land use designation that currently applies to the subject lands. The lands are designated as institutional in the city's official plan. The surrounding land use designation includes open space, that's to the south, educational, institutional to the north and east, residential to the east, west, and city center to the south and southeast. This slide illustrates the current zoning. 54 Ross Street is currently zoned institutional with no special provisions, and 150 Toronto Street is currently zoned residential multiple dwelling second density in the city's zoning bylaw. As you can see, the majority of the block is zoned institutional with special provision 299. This slide shows the existing height and setback standards for the 2 parcels. The first on the left relates to 150 Toronto Street. The zoning allows for a maximum height of 10 meters for all buildings or 20 for walk-up apartments. There is a minimum front yard setback of 7 meters, a minimum side yard setback of 1.8 meters, and a minimum rear yard setback of 7 meters in this zone. The standards for 54 Ross Street are shown on the right. The zoning allows for a maximum height of 15 meters, a minimum side yard setback of 5 meters, and a minimum rear yard setback of 7 meters. This slide shows the current land uses that surround the subject site. To the north is institutional uses, including the RVH Dialysis Center and Hillcrest Public School. There's also the Learning Jungle Maple Hill across the street to the east. There's Queens Park located directly south across Ross Street, and there is residential uses that surround the block to the east, west, northwest, and south. The amendment seeks to bring the subject sites in alignment with the rest of the block. It would zone them to the institutional zone with special provision 299. This would allow for future development of the vacant lots and regulate the lands to the zoning standards of the existing Victoria Village. The chart on the right depicts the zoning standards. I'm not going to take you through all of them, but if you have any questions about the zoning standards, I'm happy to go through them in your questions. Additional uses permitted in the special provision include store, office, restaurant, financial establishment, personal service store, and service store. A development concept has not been completed at this time, so I don't have any plans to show you other than what the zoning changes are. This slide shows the developable area in yellow and the existing Victoria Village, which will remain. The potential area for development is approximately 12,222.5 square meters or 1.2 hectares. Again, the rezoning will bring the subject sites in alignment with the existing zoning for Victoria Village. So the parcels won't just be kind of floating in a different zone. In conclusion, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is being sought to rezone the lands from residential RM2 and institutional I to institutional with special provision 299, aligning the existing zoning of Victoria Village. The zoning will bring the existing residential zoning on site into conformity with the official plan and will allow for appropriate future growth within Barrie's built up area. It is an efficient use of land and existing infrastructure and is consistent with the applicable planning policy. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I can bring up any of the previous slides if needed.